Don't ever talk to us again. Racist rhinos. And who was that? Mitch McConnell. Bush. Romney. No, not right now. Romney. All of them boys. All of y'all. John McCain. All of you. But he died. But he's still a racist rhino. That's right. You understand what I'm saying?
I get you.
Y'all think y'all gonna get away with this? You're not gonna get away with this here. Because Blacks for Trump is here.
That's right.
That's right.
Daniel anointed Cyrus, and we gonna anoint Trump as Cyrus to wipe out all of the Democrat Confederate rebels.
That's right.
And all of the racist rhino Republicans who are all bastards from hell.
That's right.
And
That's
slave masters. You know who you equal, Ron? You equal Dathan. Dathan was the governor in Egypt. He tried to talk us back into going back to Egypt so we can get some of the flesh pots for free.
Welcome back to Why Are We Like This? I'm David Quinones, your host. I am joined once again by Tomas Kennedy, my co-host. Tomas, you just got back from some fun stuff, right?
Reporting from the front line.
And if Tomas is here, joining
from
me...
Betaland.
From Betaland.
From Cuckland.
They're calling it #disaster. And if Tomas is here, that means, of course, I'm joined as well by my other co-host, Gerald Doherty. Jer, what's up, man?
I'm wonderful. I felt, the biblical description of an angel, the eyes and the wings and everything. That's what it felt like today, to be in the presence of one of those.
But why? What felt so angelic? What made us feel like we were in the presence of some sort of deity? It was the launch of a presidential campaign that may be dead before even taking its first breaths.
Baby bird not leaving that nest.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot of time to joke about this and fuck around about Ron DeSantis's wonderful, presidential bid announcement, the campaign announcement on Twitter tonight, just like pretty much every other podcast like ours is probably doing right now. But I just wanted to start by saying what I said to Gerald before you got on, Tomas. I listened to the whole thing, and I feel not joking around. I feel really bad. It made me feel very bad, inside. I feel like shit having heard that whole fucking thing.
I have to disagree, and maybe this is the stuff that podcasts have made. I have to disagree. I feel rejuvenated. I feel like I've seen beyond the horizon. I have the recording here.
God, please.
I isolated. If it's all right, I'm going to play one of my favorite parts. Was it from the recording? Hang on, here we go. Okay.
Jer, if you have headphones on, we won't be able to hear it.
Shh. All right. All right. Sorry, everyone. David interrupted. I'm going to rewind. I'm going to hit play again. Shh.
This was my favorite part too.
Shh, David.
I'm sorry.
It just went on like that. It was like we said beforehand we were going to learn more about Elon Musk than we did about Ron DeSantis from this event. And I thought I was going to learn about his his venture into culture war to become the meme, basically, and how that was going to play with a national figure. And what we actually learned about Elon Musk is just why it was that Twitter is worth half of what it was the day he bought it. We saw it and listened to it with our own ears.
Yeah. But this is why I love Twitter. Twitter is the best social media app because it gives us these moments. It's so perfect. This could not happen in any other platform. Indisputably, the best social media app. King, queen.
Well, this is it's the same logic where if I ever find myself in a situation where I have to talk somebody down off of a ledge, not taking their own life, the way that I would always do it is you never my rationale for never wanting to kill myself is you never know what kind of funny shit you're gonna miss. You kill yourself and there's something so stupid and funny that might happen the next day.
Yep.
And no matter how depressed you are and how bad things feel, you should get to experience that dumb shit. So in case for some reason you don't know what you didn't get Jerry's joke, if maybe somehow you've stayed off the internet for the past however many hours, Ron DeSantis's campaign announcement on Twitter that was supposed to go on Twitter Spaces underwent a rapid unscheduled disassembly along with Twitter Spaces itself. It didn't work for I don't know about you guys. I was listening as Elon
about
Musk.
like 9 minutes.
Yeah, like for me, it was like 20 minutes before they managed to figure out to move over to venture fund psycho fellow South African David Sachs feed, because he has the way that they spun it live is they said that
this was great.
He has fewer followers, and whenever Elon does anything, it's just critical mass. It's much too big. It's like, meanwhile, BuzzFeed blew up a fucking watermelon and got like 2 million viewers like a year and a half ago. Like I was telling you guys in the chat. Victoria's Secret in like 1999 streamed years before Twitter streamed a halftime Super Bowl show that got like 10 million viewers, and that was I like, come on, this is fucking bullshit. You make shitty products. Gerald, you like shared a picture of the Cybertruck and said that should be our episode image.
I think so. This is what he does. He sells you on how wonderful the future is going to be, and the way he does that is by handing off the responsibilities to another person to be the CEO. Like that's what he does. He's just a little action figure for people to play with in the privacy of their own minds. But the actual work has to get done by other people. In this case, the engineers that he fired and clearly didn't replace sufficiently.
This was so predictable, because the most buggy part of Twitter has always been like the spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So I really would have loved to been a fly on the wall at the governor's mansion or whatever that fucking lunatic DeSantis was doing the Twitter space from. Because he was probably fucking freaking out, like sweating, yelling at the fucking hyper online dumbass advisors that fucking roped him into this stupid fucking idea. And then I don't want to like speed up too much or get ahead of ourselves here. But, okay, so there's like 9 minutes of silence or whatever. Then the space is just crashing over and over and over again. Elon speaks, trying to introduce. For like a minute, it crashes. Finally, David, like 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in, they figure it out. Like Elon Musk comes in. He sounds flustered. DeSantis finally comes in. He like sounds annoyed. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the worst part of it is that there's no video to this.
Right.
So there's nothing you can clip. Like, what is the fastest growing social media site aside from ChatGPT and these AI like sites? It's TikTok, you know what I mean? And Instagram Reels in a lot of way. And even Twitter, which is, like a huge social media platform, it's moving towards like a video streaming orientation. Like, how fucking stupid are you that you make a presidential campaign announcement and you have no video for that to be replicated on earned media, traditional media, social media? And then the worst part is that Ron DeSantis' voice, not his strong suit. So you just have this aggrieved, nasally sounding pussy.
Whiny, yeah.
It was just horrible.
Yeah.
But also delicious for people like us.
It was very like one adjective I would use to describe broadly his presentation was bitch made. It was a very bitch made presentation that he was
absolutely cooked. Like, it's terrible.
If I'm Tucker Carlson and I've just signed myself to a contract with this site, God knows what the contract is, you're telling me, and we know this is bullshit, but you're telling me I'm only going to be able to broadcast effectively to 100,000 people at a time, right? When I used to pull in 2 million, 3 million. Tucker has that many.
Tucker has that many viewers in Pensacola County. Like, he has that many, and they can't. Can you guys imagine one of the lamestream legacy, like NPR, right? Like, let's say that you're let's say you're the Liz Warren campaign, and you're like, I'm trying to think of like the dorkiest, nerdiest, most online potential, campaign on the other side. And you're like, no, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a more erudite, launch. We're going to do something with fucking Diane Rehm or whatever on NPR. And then it's like, sorry, just wait. Can you bear with us for a half hour while we figure out how to do the basic thing that our core function fucking is, like broadcasting. Just give us a little bit of time. This is our first fucking rodeo.
I want to launch on MySpace, and I want John DePodesta to host and moderate, and that'll be
On the Tucker point, I kind of agree with you guys, but like that's not a perfect analogy because again, Tucker wants to do a show with video.
Right.
That's not what we did here, right? Like that's not what the DeSantis people did. They launched a presidential campaign. Again, back to my point, on just like a Twitter space. There's no video for them to like. They are going to have to like redo this.
Like, was there? Do you guys? What's your wager? What's your wager on whether or not there was a camera in the room at all documenting this purportedly for like you and I, the three of us all like joke and we know that DeSantis is going to get his dick kicked in, but like for them, they have to believe that this is a historic, important moment. Do they have a fucking camera in the room at all? Like, is anybody documenting this shit?
Maybe. I mean, maybe there is. We don't know. But even that's not like engaging footage. You know what I mean? Like what them sitting at a table or whatever. Like, it's just, like, stupid and hyper online. And, you know, I forgot who had this tweet, but, like, the tweet said, this is what happens when you have a bunch of fucking hyper online lunatics as your advisors and staff. They give you stupid advice like this. People, I mean, I'm a poster. I have a lot of fucking followers on Twitter, but it's just Twitter. Like, no one gives a shit. You know what I mean? Like, how, like, if I ran for president, and I never would, and I don't think I would do particularly well. But if somebody was like, "Hey, let's launch the campaign on Twitter," I'd be like, "No, like that's a stupid idea."
That's
and
a
I'm
shitty place to do
it. Give me that idea.
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna fire you right now, but like, don't you really like? I need you to do it better. You know, like what the fuck?
No bad ideas except for that one, Joe. You got to do better than that. That's a fucking bad idea.
Like, are you kidding me right now? Like launching my presidential campaign on a fucking Twitter space with a right-wing billionaire, like dumb.
Yeah.
If your whole message is that you have the ear of the masses, why would you go on a platform where the masses can't speak or applaud or cheer or anything? It's just
it's fucking kabuki theater. That's one of the things that infuriated me the most about it. And I might sound like like as normie as can possibly be, but like that pissed me off hearing them talk about this democratization against like corporate media. This is a motherfucker that owns multiple corporations. It is not anti-corporate media. He owns multiple media corporations.
This was such a democratic event that only 3 people were allowed to be heard.
Right.
Even the applause of a crowd, you couldn't hear it, and not because no one wanted to. Maybe there were a few, but everyone else had the mute button on because they had to be muted. So that
did you guys request to speak? Did you guys request to speak at all? I requested.
I requested too, but of course not. But to that point, one of the going back to like, is this a good idea or not? Particularly for DeSantis, one of the main criticisms of him is that he's a fucking socially awkward loser who can't relate to people. I mean, did you guys see that video at the New Hampshire diner where he's like,
"Oh yes,
wow, sure smells good here. I'll tell you that." And then some fucking like New Hampshire white guy walks up to him and he's like, "Hi, I'm Bob Sanders," and DeSantis is like, "Oh, okay," and then
okay.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Say,
great, you're doing a good job, and it's like, okay.
Wow, nice to meet you. Where did you drive from? Thanks so much. I'm sure counting on your vote. I really need it. I don't know. Like, don't say okay when somebody's introducing themselves to you, and then you have all these criticisms that you're like a socially awkward freak, and then you have like your campaign launch on Twitter. Like,
look, he's a profoundly like apart from Laura Loomer's diagnosis of him being on the spectrum, he is.
I interviewed Laura Loomer today, and she said that he's on the spectrum. Not my words. Lots of people are saying it, not me.
Many people are saying it.
He's on the political spectrum.
So look, I had said before this episode started, like maybe this could just be a bit of a notebook dump. Obviously, our governor, the state of Florida, we are a Florida podcast, is officially running for president, surprising precisely 0 people. But I want to try to order it this way if you guys are down for this. So far we've had sort of a talk about the aesthetics and the look and the sort of pageantry around this. A few more things I'd like to say about that. I'm sure you guys do too, because it was such a disaster. But I don't want to go too long without actually talking about some of the substance of the shit that was said, because I think that we're in danger of missing some Christopher Rufo laid out his plan for the higher education system in Florida on this call. It's chilling. It's truly chilling. And then Tomas did some really important work with hundreds of other folks in downtown Miami today, and I want to talk about that too. But first, guys, can we talk about Jared? Maybe Tomas doesn't know about this because he wasn't on early before. Can we talk about cascading style sheets, CSS, and the way that you design websites? So
I would love to talk about websites and web design.
I would love to do that as well.
Aesthetics, yes.
So one of the key tenets of web design is, using cascading style sheets in HTML to create reactive websites, or what they call what the fuck is the word? Adjustable websites. They look good on the phone. They look good on an iPad. They look good on your screen. Tomas, can you do me a favor and visit rondesantis.com on your computer right now, not on your laptop? I'm sorry, not on your iPhone, but on your actual computer.
rondesantis.com.
rondesantis.com.
Oh,
his official website. Please check this.
Please do this.
What the fuck?
So I bring up the concept of cascading style sheets and what many other people just know as CSS to point out. I hate to promote Ron DeSantis' website, but guys,
I don't. If you're listening to this right now, go to that website before they change it. And they will change it. Go to the website. Go to the website.
I have never, in all the projects that I've worked on in my career in communications, website launches, I have never seen a fuck up in this direction where they design the website first for mobile and then forget to do the responsiveness for 10 what we call 1920 by 1080, or regular browser size.
In layman's terms, it is usually a question: how are we going to get the desktop version of our website to be friendly with mobile? And they have solved this problem by not having a desktop version of their website. They're going all mobile. If you needed visual proof that this is an internet-y campaign, this is it. They made a mobile website for desktop.
Terminally online.
And when you hit refresh, his head does the little jiggle that he does in real life.
What?
Hit refresh on the page. His head jiggles,
It jiggles.
like it does.
And the logo does too.
Jiggle.
The logo does a jiggle.
And so, when I tell you that this is the most wonderful day I've had, this is what I mean. Maybe don't have the head jiggle on the website because people are going to point out that your head jiggles even in the virtual world. No one around him could possibly love him because someone would have said, "Don't do this."
They must deeply hate him.
Don't do this.
Reading about this?
No, I just went to his website on desktop. I was like, I want to see what the swag is like. There's no swag. This was just me being a freak
swag
and seeing
this.
No
swag, all wiggle. That's it.
Yes, it's all jiggle. There's no swag. It's all jiggle.
And we're sure that this is his official website.
This is powered by WinRed. At the bottom, powered by WinRed, which is like their version of ActBlue.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's crazy to me is that the footer is properly styled. Insane. The footer is responsive. So somebody has to, what that tells me is in the process of, you guys have worked with candidates before. You know how this works, right? You get a little toolkit, I imagine, when you decide that you're going to run aligned with the party, right? They're like, here's the website you build. Here's the link. Here's here's where you bank. Here's your, forms that you have to fill out and shit. And this, to see that this was something I didn't notice at first, Jer, to see that the footer is appropriately formatted.
Yes.
It's completely backs your take that this is active hatred from those closest to him.
Actually, they don't love you. If you're listening to this, Ron, they don't love you. They would have stopped you if they loved you.
There were so many opportunities to fucking fix this.
Someone put that head jiggle in there because they hate working for you. That's why they did this to you.
They're MAGA agents, bro.
They're agents of MAGA. 8 MAGA sleeper cells have been activated. So we had several minutes of silence that started on Twitter, on Elon's Twitter page. Random throat clearing. A lot of really fun, if you didn't hear the thing the first time, don't worry, just wait half a second because there was an echo, so you can hear it again. A lot of that going on, some muffled commentary. DeSantis just dropped out at one point and said, fuck this. And then they moved over to David Sachs' feed, which, sure, that's the reason that it was a problem. Yeah. One thing I did want to mention, as long as we're like talking about the high level shit and the aesthetics and the pageantry or whatever, one word not once uttered during the entire 1 hour event. Property insurance, no, that was not uttered either. But the one that struck me the most was the word Trump. Not once by any of the people involved in this campaign, involved in this event. Any of the sycophants that were, glazing him and sucking him off, or Elon. Nobody mentioned the big boy in the room. And like, I don't know, T, to what do you, I mean, I can think of a few reasons, but to what do you owe that?
Because he is a pussy and beta, bro. Like, nobody wants that smoke. Meanwhile, fucking Ron put out a fucking Donald put out a press release calling him Rob, like not even calling him by his name. Put out a press release saying, like, of course he's having his campaign announcement on Twitter, so he doesn't have to interact with real people. He's been roasting him all day, all week, for several months now. He's been roasting him. Like, bro, like, you are running against Trump. I don't know what the calculation here is, that like Trump is gonna get Trump can run from prison and he would still win constitutionally. He's allowed to do that. I don't understand the calculation here. At some point, you're gonna have to punch back, bro. Like, I don't get it. I was
gonna say on the spaces they talked about COVID, and they talked about all the figures of authority during COVID. That immiserated all of us, the ideological screeners at YouTube. There was the CDC and the WHO and all these health agencies,
the biomedical state,
and yes, and all the rest. And you start to wonder. I wonder if there was anyone else in charge during COVID.
Was there a president?
that you might be running against in the primary. No, just pretend he doesn't exist. Even when you're talking about the timeline where he was president and you have complaints about how things went, you can't you won't, because you're afraid that he'll come after you, and he will anyway, and you think you could just ignore him to death. Just pretend he didn't exist.
But
the ultimate authority is the YouTube, editorial section or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. The thing is also, no one gives a shit about COVID anymore. No one wants to hear about it.
No one wants to think about it. No one wants to.
Yeah, no, I don't want to wear a mask anymore. Liberals don't want to wear masks. Conservatives don't want to wear masks. We don't want to hear about masks. We don't want to hear about that shit anymore. Honestly, they're freaks. They're still obsessing over quarantine and masks and the vaccines. And most people have moved on with their lives.
The biggest enemy. Yeah, the biggest enemy of any COVID, mitigation stuff that like you're talking about, T, has been Joe Biden. I mean, like, and if you go down that road, rhetorically, there's going to be a point, Ron or Donald Trump, where you're going to have to get on stage and have Joe Biden look at you and be like, "Well, I'm the one that ended COVID," as true as it is or not. Which, by the way, I'll just reiterate my point that it's standing like. The same amount of people are fucking dying every day of COVID as it was at the worst. So fucking over is one thing, but like I know we are over it mentally as a people, but like
as a social
thing to talk about.
That's what I mean, right? Like at the end of the day, like either you got your shot or you didn't. But at this point, like the national conversation and the political zeitgeist has moved on from that. I got my shot. A lot of people fucking didn't. But like that is not a political winner. That's not where the political conversation is. I don't think that's what's moving voters on either part, like either side of the political spectrum. And like this dude spent like 20 minutes at least talking about that. Like bizarre, weirdo, freak.
Yeah, it's people want to vote feeling like they're casting a vote to at least make the next few years, if not better, at least not worse. And no one wants to think about like, hey, remember 3 years ago? Yeah. It's like, I'm trying not to. I didn't have fun during quarantine. You know, my whole life I had to hit pause on everything, and it was scary. I was afraid I might lose somebody. Now, yeah, I really want to vote for the guy who's going to remind me of that over and over and over and over.
People want to talk about the housing crisis nationwide, inflation, affordability, the war in Ukraine. Like, there's a lot of like issues that are part of the zeitgeist right now. Like COVID, for better or for worse, like it's not occupying that space anymore. And like I get it. Like that is the issue that propelled him. But like he's just kind of starting to look like a bizarro freak by latching onto it and keep talking about the biomedical state and the vaccines, and you just look like a fucking weirdo.
Well, it wouldn't be an episode of Walt if you didn't have at least one of us pointing ire at sort of establishment Democrats on the other side. And when you said, Tomas, that like that's what fueled him, I couldn't help it. It kind of triggered in my head something that I was thinking when I was listening, which was like, we really have, I think, the DNC to thank for this fucking guy. The fact that he's present, the fact that he's a fucking thing at all, between the way the DNC supported like the last gasping vapor fumes of 2018 when there was like those last little remnants of the Obama for America fucking apparatus that helped, I guess, probably helped Gillum a little bit, to 2022, when by that point last year, the National Democratic Party had completely abandoned this state strategically. And now this guy gets to walk around and say accurately that he won by 20 points because he pretended COVID didn't exist or whatever the fuck his like. No, man, it's the fucking Democratic National Committee that made the choice to just give up Florida as any kind of, you know, effort, but, you know, any kind of finance, any kind of, you know, backing, whatever. And yeah, of course he won by fucking 20 points.
I'll give you a counterpoint though. So, you know, I'm not trying to defend the DNC, which I am a member of, but reluctantly and elected. I don't take a dime from them. So don't fucking come at me. But I'm a Bernie guy. Okay, fuck off. But I will say, you know, the DNC actually invested heavily in 2018, and we came really close to defeating DeSantis, right? 30,000 votes. But like, bro, you know, they look, if Bernie, I worked in the Bernie campaign 2020, like Florida was not part of the Bernie roadmap to victory, both in the primary or the general.
Or in the general, yeah.
And guess what? Like Florida was also not in their path to victory, and they won. Like they did not invest in the state heavily. They kind of wrote it off. And they won without it, right? But beyond that, in 2022, I think the DNC and the National Democratic Party looked at the map, right? Looked at the last couple of elections and looked at what happened in 2020, and they said, well, look, we have all these competitive seats, right? In the Senate, in the House. We have limited resources, and we need to keep control of these chambers, or at least attempt to. And we need to make, you know, like we need to make some responsible investments. And you look at Florida then, and you see a state Democratic Party that serves as an ATM for some of the most grifter fucking consultants in the nation that have not delivered results in 20 years, that constantly loses, that cycles through leadership year after year, that builds no infrastructure, built nothing, that had the shittiest candidates at the top of the ticket nationwide. And then you had places like Wisconsin, you know what I mean? You have places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, places that have had track record of success, better candidates, better state parties, you know what I mean? Where people said, you know what, like giving these people some money and some funding, it's an investment because they are building an apparatus. They're building a machine, right? However you feel about Democrats, you know, whatever, like you see the progress. In Florida, I mean, donor money is just evaporating. It's like the Jeff Bush campaign. They're lighting it on fire. So, you know, I'm not a proponent of just like letting the state, you know, like die and like not funding it or whatever. I mean, that's why we do this podcast. That's why we do the work that we do. But I do understand also, you know, the flip side of that coin is like at some point people that like have like a national perspective and are looking at all 50 states say, you know what, fuck these people in Florida. They're fucking taking me for a ride. And you have, and they are, you have all these fucking grifter consultants.
They're putting on fucking galas and shit in downtown Miami, and they're not actually, you know, achieving anything.
Yeah, and remember, the Val Demings campaign like raised like $80 million. Like again, we were underfunded, but like money was raised and it wasn't allowed to show for it.
More than the DNC. After listening, because I was the only part where I really did feel like a wince was when DeSantis was talking about how the backlash to his book bans are basically like a media invention. They're a media hoax. Everything you got to watch out because the media will invent something out of whole cloth and run with it. And I thought that was just a little too cute for the two people who I would say on that call are the biggest beneficiaries of media inventions have to be Elon Musk and Ron DeSantis. Yep. Elon Musk is where he is today because investors think that his companies, while not profitable today or not nearly as profitable as they should be, will be one day and will have a market share on a growing market eventually. He has ridden the last 10 years on promising projects that he has not delivered. One of which will be the image for this episode title. The other has to be Ron DeSantis. And it drives me insane being up in New York, seeing the New York press treat Ron DeSantis while I knew just from talking to you guys, every horrible, evil, vicious thing that was passing to the Florida legislature and feeling gaslit reading the New York press by saying that DeSantis is a desirable alternative to Trump because he's not cranky on social media at 2 a.m. And I more than the DNC, I feel like the press is culpable for this these stars online.
When DeSantis took from Christopher Rufo, who was his sort of like his unofficial czar on education, on higher education, when he got into the you could tell he was very well versed in precisely what he would do nationally as a president, DeSantis, to the accreditation process and the various accreditation organizations, governed as they are or regulated as they are by the Department of Education, federally. That to me was 1,000 times scarier than anything that Trump did from 2017 to 2021, because I know it's a hokey point to bring it up at this point, but like Trump was pretty incompetent. He could barely get anything done. He could barely get the skid marks out of his fucking underwear to hear the people in the White House tell the stories. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. His attention span was a fucking kitten, and it was that of a kitten. And he, from one day to the other, the focus would change, and for the good of the Republic, I think in most cases, because the shit that he couldn't get done, it was good that he couldn't get it done. Now, You're talking about a guy who he outlined an actionable, and as far as I can tell, knowing what I know about education on the federal and local level, completely attainable plan to turn the national accreditation system of how we decide what education is, what counts as a fucking diploma, and what's just University of Phoenix or whatever. To turn that on its head and to remove any pieces of it that don't agree with his ideology. And he was not hiding behind flowery language when he described it. He was dead ass, 100%.
It was like the language of a tactician.
Yeah.
It wasn't the language of an educator. Yeah.
Absolutely. If I was one of his supporters, I would be very heartened by that. I'd be like, oh wow, he knows how to get it done. This is a guy that can get it done. And as somebody who is an opponent of him, my warning, and I think our warning should be, he knows how to get it done. That should also be the thing that we're scared of.
He's practicing right now.
Yeah. I mean, needs to figure out Twitter Spaces too. I mean, no, I wouldn't say he's the most competent guy. That's the thing, right? I think in the floor, yes, I think DeSantis is much more competent than Trump and much more dangerous. But I do think that if this guy ever became president, he would eat so much shit too, right? Congress would fuck his ass. The gridlock in Congress, they would not tolerate this sort of shit from the executive. You know what I mean? The agencies, would not tolerate this sort of shit. I do think that, he has had it easy in Florida because he's had a compliant legislature and, state agencies that have been, pacified for decades of GOP control, especially under Rick Scott. But this guy also sucks. I mean, he's a fucking loser.
But Gerald, as our national correspondent, isn't it to Tomas's point? Isn't it foreseeable that a election result that somehow puts a Ron DeSantis in the White House is one that also would probably be handing over both chambers of the legislature
Yes.
to the Republicans, right?
Yeah, I think at the very least, they expand on their House majority, and they only have 2 seats in the Senate flips the chamber.
Right.
I mean, these are very thin margins. People think like, oh, well, he won Wisconsin. Biden did not win Wisconsin by like banger numbers. That would like the states that he flipped, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, like these were tight races.
It was 40,000 votes across like what? 3 states. Right. I mean,
yeah. I mean, people think like, you know, I think if there's only one thing that Biden can count on, it's people who don't like him voting for him anyway. I think the people who in the midterms said they leaned disapproval. It wasn't like strongly dislike, but it was like I leaned towards disliking him. It was a 50-50 split between red and blue among that demographic in the midterms. And I think that's the only thing that he has going for him is an ambient dislike for the way things are going, but more contempt for what a guy like a Ron DeSantis would do if given the keys. And the thing that makes me think that Biden could beat him out is the fact that he's just running a campaign that is like the national strategy that just ate shit in the 2022 midterms in the first place. In other words, his whole thing was, let's not, was it all my losses or lessons or whatever? They weren't even lessons. It was just like, all right, let's run it back. The Rufo thing didn't work. Let's put him on our national team.
Does any of it penetrate to a liberal, like anything that happened tonight? Like, does any of this penetrate the lib brain? I'll
tell you how I know that. The Bud Light boycott. The people I know up here who are boycotting Bud Light don't actually care that much about transgender anything. Like they in fact, they will tell you that they know a young person who's trans and that they like them or whatever. Yeah. I think Nikki Haley was just at Politics and Eggs in New Hampshire and tried out a Dylan Mulvaney line. And no one cared because, like we said, what does this have to do with my housing? What does this have to do with my healthcare? What does this have to do with anything? This has nothing to do with me. And I think that's what they don't understand about the transgender issue is people either know someone who's LGBTQ or whatever it is and are like fine with them. Or just if they don't, they're like, this really just has nothing to do with me. You are literally talking past me to talk to Dylan Mulvaney. I think people feel that.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this, and I don't want to sound like a cheery optimist, but I think I am at the end of the day because, you know, to be someone on the left and an organizer, you kind of have to be a little bit of an optimist. I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I really don't think that most people, I mean, some people are bad and evil, but I don't think most people wake up every day being like, wow, I fucking hate, you know, my fellow human being.
Yeah.
I hate people who are different than me. And I want those people to suffer. I want the world to be crueler to other people. I really don't think that. And I do think that, you know, there's biases and phobias, you know, in everyone to some degree, whether less or more. But at the end of the day, I do think that, like, like these politicians can appeal to like our worst, you know, instincts. But at some point, people get tired of it, right? And someone like DeSantis that offers nothing except anger and being aggrieved and just, you know, bitterness. At least with someone like Trump, who I think sucks, and I would never vote for Trump. Yeah. At least with Trump, like, he's kind of funny, like he's an entertainer. Like, you remember him from like Home Alone, right? Like, but like with DeSantis, it's just like this guy is just bitter as fuck, and I think at some point people just get tired of that.
Can I posit like a different take on that? Where I think that they do the same video, the rare occasions every year that on the rare occasion when the New York Knicks actually get into the playoffs, they do this video, right? They did it with Trey Crowder, they did it with Paul Pierce, they did it with Jimmy Butler, where they go outside of Madison Square Garden and they ask ravenous, crazy, insane Knicks fans, what do you think of Trey Crowder? What do you think of Jimmy Butler? And they're the most like venomous, horrible, you know, Butler, I'm gonna fuck you up the ass, you know, like horrible shit, terrible shit. And then they finish the interview with them by saying, but would you want him on the team? And invariably, my fellow Knicks fans, they never let me down. They're like, Hell yeah, of course. If he wanted to come here tomorrow, we would love him. And I bring that up.
Everyone wants someone on their team.
But I bring it up, Jared, because it feels like increasingly the shit that you're talking about is divorced. And again, this is not a novel idea. People have talked about this, but the hatred part, the piece, it's the piece that makes you go into Target and knock over shit and break Bud Light bottles is almost like it's become compartmentalized into entertainment brain. Like, that's my fun shit. That's what I go do for fun. Oh no, I would never actually hurt a trans kid. I mean, they're kids. I don't want to do anything to them. To your point, Tomas, like, these people are good, but they're poison. Their brains are like fucked up on. They're sniffing the good shit that's got them, running up in Target and knocking shit over and throwing live laugh lesbian shirts around and shit. It's compartmentalized.
Those are the bad people, but I think most people are not doing that. By the way, I got a CNN breaking news alert, y'all. Friend of the pod, George Santos, has spoken, and he says after this bizarre Twitter space, 45th will be 47. End of conversation. Followed by a ringing endorsement, hashtag Trump 2024. So George Santos has spoken. Yeah.
Do we know
he took the digital newsletter and ripped it up and threw it in the trash?
That's cool.
Do we know what Miami Beach's own George Santos, Fabian Basabe, who he's supporting?
I think he endorsed DeSantis. He was part of that 99 cucked state legislature endorsement list.
So look, the thing that probably actually stuck out to me and didn't feel like a smooth content orb of this event was the thing about education. And then also I would say the other thing was just the whole segment with Dana Loesch, who I hadn't thought about in a long time. I
forgot about
completely forgot about her. Oh
my God.
Yeah. And
is NRA TV still up?
No, I think that NRA TV is down, and I think that she's syndicated now on actual radio, on real radio. So NRA TV is, I think, was a the NRA was a victim of its own shit, right? Like, it was kind of corrupt internally. It had apart from its shitty mission and overall broad evil, it was because lots of companies and organizations and groups are evil, but they were just bad at bookkeeping, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. They weren't good at keeping the bills paid. So apart from that, was there anything in the content of what was said that stuck out to you guys that was maybe new DeSantis, like shit that you hadn't really heard him weigh in on, or was this all just retread?
I pulled the plug at the Rufo part, because once I heard that name, that they're bringing him back, I was like, I know how this ends. Just not tonight, but in general, I know how this ends, and I felt like there was nothing really to learn. I was very surprised that it was weird. It was like a greatest hits album for a band that's never released an album. It was like here's all our best songs put together. It's like, who are you? I'm sorry. Just hitting the if the Newsmax grievance addict pleasure zones, and nothing else. I was just very surprised by the narrowness of the focus for something that, to Tomas's earlier point, Tim Scott is at least being seen with other people in a big space with a big idea, big vision for America. Yeah, other people.
This is something on my notes. This is something on my notes that I really wanted to bring up and get you guys' thoughts on, because I don't think we've talked about this before. Maybe we have on chat, but the idea that Ron DeSantis and DeSantis had one of these pre-announcement 30-second spots that he released, I think about 2 weeks ago, and all of the videos, all of the clips, all of the visuals were voters, salt of the earth, real people, real Americans, corn and farms in the background and shit like that. Kind of entertaining the idea of voting for Ron DeSantis. And somebody very astute, and I wish I could give them credit because I misplaced the tweet, but they had a really great thread about how, notice in the production, every single person in the commercial is engaging with the concept of Ron DeSantis through a screen. They're looking at their phone. They're watching an ad. They're like seeing, a text message from a friend. Oh, DeSantis, like they're, and I think that it's a little bit of a half-baked theory right now, but like, I feel like he is the first real, like, completely media creation, viable candidate, not like a candidate that might actually, make some noise, a candidate that has like some kind of numbers. And I couldn't help but think about that when everybody was like, why is this fucking guy doing this on Twitter? Why is this happening on like this broken, fucked up technology with the online guy, the online billionaire guy? Like, why are they doing it this way?
We saw why at the diner in New Hampshire, because if you ever met him in person and you told him your name, he'd go, okay, that's why.
Bro, all the people he hires are just these fucking weirdo freaks that live on Twitter, like Jeremy Redfern or Christina Pushaw. Like, these fucking losers that like are just on Twitter all day. So of course they think this is brilliant. And I do have to share this. So this fucking loser is right now on Fox News doing damage control with Trey Gowdy, whatever his name is, the former
Gowdy.
congressman. Yeah.
Trey Gowdy. Mm-hmm.
The Silver Fox.
So he says, you can call me whatever you want. Just make sure you call me a winner, because that's what we've done in the state of Florida. Like, how beta is that? Like, you can't
That's the shit, though.
tell people to call you a winner. You sound like a little child. You sound like a
So
loser.
pathetic.
You also can't say call me whatever you want, because then people are going to do that on the internet that you spend all your time on.
People think about the big gorilla in the room who's fucking cucking you and calling you a loser for months now. And again, you're deflecting and being like, man, you can just call me a winner. You sound like a little boy.
Donald Trump has so many advantages over him. I think about the time where Trump was, I forget on what ridiculous debate stage it was, but Trump was first confronted with in person with the idea that QAnon exists. And he was able to, not convincingly, but he was able to plausibly say, I don't know much about them. I'm not online enough. And we kind of look at him like, yeah, well, he probably vaguely knows what QAnon is, but that's believable. If Ron DeSantis tried to say he doesn't know like the deepest, darkest, most online weird shit, nobody would believe him. That he's like got Pepe shirts and shit. Like he's like, he is that guy. Like nobody's going to be able to, he can't, my point is that he can't plausibly sell us on that degree of remove where, like, let's be honest, being online is pathetic. It's fucking lame. It's really lame to be that online. And to be able to be like Donald Trump and be able to say like, I'm not really online that much, and people believe you. And then to be DeSantis, there's just nobody's going to buy that shit. We all know that you're super hyper tuned into every little fucking thing. It's
believable for Trump because he has a building with his name on it that he can just walk into and hang out at. What does Ron DeSantis have to go to other than the internet and the governor's mansion that other people have lived? Like, this is it. He's like, to Tomas's point, he's hired a bunch of people who saw the God Emperor Trump memes in 2015 and were like, this must be the road to power. This is me now. Like, this is there must be something to this. Rather than just seeing that it was like neckbeards like tailing like a Trump phenomenon, thinking that the neckbeards must be like magic warlocks that are giving Donald Trump their like internet power.
Yeah, Christina Pushaw booting up a fucking PowerPoint where it's like, what if Pepe but an alligator on the Gadsden flag, or some shit, and it's like, oh, don't tread on Florida. Yeah, it's like just cheesy, iterative, unbelievable, like not credible type shit. Yeah, it's I don't know. So that's all bullshit happening online. But why don't we talk a little bit and maybe end this episode a little bit by talking about shit happening in the real world. Tomas, you were downtown today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the activities that you had going on?
Yeah, I exited the Matrix, the Twitter.com, and decided to interact with people for a little bit.
In meat space.
Yeah, in real space in the 3D world. But yeah, basically, we called for a protest outside of the Four Seasons, because again, the DeSantis did his like. Again, this is how bizarre this man is. He is doing his like announcement on Twitter.com in like the online world, and then they rented a hotel, the Four Seasons, an expensive hotel in Brickell in the financial district of Miami, for like donors to go in there and bundle money for him. But there is no campaign announcement. DeSantis is not there. There's nothing for like supporters. There's no grassroots event. There's no rally. They literally just like rented a bunch of rooms for them to do call time and bundle money. Like disgusting. Like disgusting. Like this is supposed to be like a populist or whatever. Like calm the fuck on. So yeah, we basically like held a protest there. I would say about maybe like 300 people showed up. Not bad, for like a weekday 4 p.m. protest in like
on a Wednesday, yeah,
in financial district of Miami where there's no parking, rainy day. But yeah, 300 people showed up. So lots of energy. Some Trumpers showed up. Blacks for Trump showed up. Laura Loomer showed up. I got to talk to them.
I think that you have donors here who obviously don't like President Trump, and you have a lot of these. It's kind of like the, like Revenge of the Nerds, right? Everybody that got dissed or owned by Trump in 2016, especially the Cruz crew, has united around Ron DeSantis. You have the entire Ted Cruz apparatus politically, and also like the donor political apparatus as well, the Mitt Romney political apparatus, all of the most treacherous rhinos in our country that have worked to undermine the MAGA movement and have been attacking President Trump since he first came on the political scene as a candidate. They're all uniting for Ron DeSantis because they view this as their opportunity to get Trump.
Ron is a punk ass sellout. You understand? So you'll never ever get away from being a sellout. You're trying to move too far to the right to try to make Trump unelectable. The only way you ever won is because Trump helped you, and not only did he help you, we came out there and helped your sorry ass. Now you got the nerve to be against Trump, running against him, you sorry, slick, snake ass cracker. I hate your guts.
Spell your first and last name.
Maurice Simonet. You can spell it. Y'all got my point? Don't ever talk to us again. Racist rhinos. And who was that? Mitch McConnell. Bush. Romney.
Help us with the last name, Maurice.
No, not right now. Romney. All of them boys. All of y'all. John McCain. All of you. But he died. But he's still a racist rhino. That's right. You understand what I'm saying?
I got in. The Four Seasons was completely blocked off by police tape. I managed to get in. Again, there were only donors walking around and suits and stuff. There was a caviar display for the donor class.
Very populous.
Very populist. The prices were in the thousands of dollars. Completely accessible, right? Who doesn't enjoy a little caviar on a Wednesday afternoon? But yeah, just like this is your campaign launch. Like you rent a fucking hotel for these fucking like Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush fucking
ham-necked freaks
to lock themselves and call, special interest groups and, like corporations and lobbyists to bundle money for you while you fucking sit with this asshole right-wing billionaire, and like do the worst campaign launch in recent American history, with like shitty tech that doesn't even work. What the fuck?
The funniest thing is that I've been a part of a lot of events in event planning. It's part of communications, and like invariably, no matter how bad an event goes, the people who are part of it at the end of it, everybody kind of looks around and is like, "Oh, it's okay. We did okay, right? We did good." Because it's just this like groupthink shit that happens when the adrenaline kind of leaves. Where you're like, "Okay, did that?" And I'm trying to imagine the chutzpah that it will take for all the people involved in this to be like, you know what? I think net it turned out okay.
Nailed it.
Nailed it, guys.
Well, they are. So Brendan Leslie, who we've talked about, the pay-for-play grifter that runs Florida's Voice. I mean, we did an investigation on him with the Florida Squeeze, and he went on Twitter, where else, and said Ron DeSantis broke Twitter, right? As in, like you said, like too many people tuned in.
Too much, man.
Like, come on, you're such a fucking hack, and like a pay-to-play grifter, and like it's so disingenuous, you know what I mean? Like, and that's how they're trying to spin it, right? Like, he broke the internet. Like, no, bro. Like, to be fair, Elon Musk, when he sat down with the BBC, like 4 million people, like they've had bigger Twitter spaces than this.
Sure.
Yes.
The tech just didn't work today because it didn't work.
More people watched AOC play Among Us than that. Like, I mean, that was like
millions of people watched.
Yeah, right.
This was 100,000 into 200,000 people, and their solution was, let's have David host. He has a smaller account.
That should fix everything.
How can you break something if a smaller thing works better?
For the faithful, put on the full armor of God. It didn't work because God hates you. Ron DeSantis. God fucking hates you, and
God hates you as much as whoever designed your website.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of on the topic of breaking news too. It looks like since we've been on this call, and obviously part of a big news cycle dump, the kind of thing that you want to do and get out of the way when people are talking about other shit. Miami Herald article just coming across the transom. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez cancels all appearances as controversy swirls over private work for developer. So I say that to tease my co-host's upcoming appearance. I'm going to get this shit up tonight, guys, just so if you're listening to this, you're probably hearing it right now. So if you hear it in time, tune into, he's not on 790 AM anymore. It's on the Dan Le Batard show with Stu Gatz, the Because Miami podcast with Billy Corbin. Tomas Kennedy will be on tomorrow/today if you're listening on Friday. So, T, do you think you'll be talking about Francis?
I don't know. I mean, we're supposed to have Billy on pretty soon, so we'll definitely talk about it with him when he's on again on our pod. I mean, I think Billy mostly wants to talk about the shenanigans outside of the Four Seasons today. But I don't know if he'll talk about it with me. I think we're just going to focus on that. But I would be shocked if it doesn't come up at some point in the episode. So, I would guess he's going to talk about it.
You guys remember that they were like floating this guy as like the Mr. Mayor, presidential candidate? Like, there was real conversations about this guy running for president.
I was going to say, they do this not infrequently. They like a cute little mayor. Like, he's like a little boy. Like, whether it's Rudy, he's the big mayor. Pete Buttigieg is our little boy mayor. Like, whatever reason, they think like a mayor is just a cute little doll you can put on your shelf and stare at and point at and be like, I wonder what he's doing today. It's a very, again, we're saying, it's a very weird media invention. I
feel like the Venn diagram of people that think that like a mayor would make a good president are the same people that are like always comparing the U.S. budget to like a household budget. Yeah. Like, it's the same people that are like that have that like fucking rotted brains that think that way.
But also like, okay, like Daniela Levine Cava, right? Like, not necessarily like her or whatever, but like the Miami-Dade County mayor, right? Like, right. That's a strong mayor. Like,
a strong mayor of 3 million people.
Yeah, there's executive power. You run agencies. You have real responsibilities. Like, City of Miami mayor is not a strong mayor system. Like, you're literally there to just like cut like fucking like ribbons. You know what I mean? Like, he's not Francis Suarez is not in an executive position. He runs nothing. All he does is just, as we see now, literally just grift and use his position to lobby and get paid on the side to give permits to developers. So the only thing I'm angry about, and I can't fault the Herald because I gotta say this was some great journalism. I am annoyed that they released this before he announced for president because they might have scared him off. And I really wanted Francis to announce because it would have been fucking hilarious. I hope he still does it.
It would be funny. It would be funny if he pulled the they're trying to silence me.
Yeah, George Santos.
I'm standing in front of.
They're afraid of my power.
They're coming for you. I'm just in the way.
In all capital, witch hunt.
Yeah.
This underfunded, failing, dying newspaper is coming for you.
Witch hunt. And the thing is, no one cares. Also, like, it doesn't seem like it's getting much traction.
No, and it won't. First of all, it's
I
buried
don't think
on
it
this.
surprised anybody.
Yeah, the dude looks like a fucking like oil snake man. Literally, like, he looks like he's covered in oil.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the picture actually. No, that's I don't know, man. I'm glad you guys having fun with this is making me feel better because I
was already having fun with this.
I felt so down in the dumps when I got on this call. I just hearing all this stuff is depressing, man. It feels bad. And like to what Tomas just said about like, oh, none of this makes a difference. I could just clip that and I could make that the subtitle of our whole fucking podcast. Like, none of this makes a difference. Like, I was thinking about a friend of the podcast, Danny Rivero, his like great reporting alongside, who was it that he did it with? I think Josh Zabalos, formerly of the Miami New Times and now over there at WLRN, had an incredible story, I think about a month and a half ago. I don't think we mentioned it on the show, where it showed this money funnel going from this Miami-Dade County program where they basically come in and take seniors who have lost their own, recognizance. They take their houses away from them. And, they're supposed to liquidate them, put them on the market, help them get into some kind of like hospice or living care. And sure enough, it was like the city, Tomas, I don't know if you remember the details. I believe it was the city attorney. Her husband was like the guy yanking these houses out from these old people and just selling them and literally the next day marking them up and making profit on them. And again, God bless Danny, God bless Joshua Sabalos, but like, it didn't fucking matter. It was on the front page of WLRN. It led all their news reports for like a week, and it just didn't fucking matter. And I think about that when I think about the way that people are absorbing all of this, like sort of writ large, bigger stuff, the DeSantis, the discourse, all of this. It's like, it fucking doesn't matter.
In fairness, David, like there was a much larger story that the Miami Herald broke not too many years ago that also hasn't led to anything other than a very mysterious prison death. Like that, yeah. I think for a lot of people, the sense that you could just let people know that horrible things have happened, that it won't move, like it's in the ether. I think it's been in the ether since the post-crash bailouts. I mean, maybe I'm biased because that was when I was coming of age, but it's just like, wow, you could really just like do subprime mortgage fraud and you'll be rescued by the government and the people in the houses will get evicted. And that's just the way it's going to be.
But I will say this. Yesterday, I went to Immokalee, which is a rural area of Florida, for those who don't know. And I met with the CIW and construction workers and contractors and people that are being affected by this new idiotic and cruel immigration law. And like people were energized like I've never seen them before. I mean, these were not activists, not organizers. They were just regular people. Again, contractors, construction workers, small business owners, agricultural workers. And they were like ready to take action. I think people are energized right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it does matter. And I think things can be turned around. But, I mean, we're up against an economic and political system that is like completely rigged and fucked up. So it's going to take generations, honestly.
to expound on that, I think people also sense your like, I don't want to say malaise, but like just the sense that like things shouldn't be this way. And I think that shapes a lot of people's, especially in the last 5 years, it shaped a lot of people's politics, that like the recognition that like, wow, nothing came of this. Well, then now where do I go from there? And that will inform what their actions are going to be. I don't think that they just squander that. It gets channeled.
A lot of people ask me, yesterday I was on this other podcast I told you guys, and the guy asked me, what's your call to action? What are you telling people? I said, like, I mean, like, sure, go out and vote. Like, it's like, just go out and vote. But like, I mean, you should vote. But like, like beyond that, because, you go out and vote and you get these same shitty candidates, like special interests that dominate the process. I'm not saying don't vote, but like be aware that like voting is not the end all be all. And that in and of itself is not going to lead to structural change. I'll tell people, just get angry. Like that is the first step. You should get angry at the fact that you are being grifted, right? And like get angry, not at your like fellow person, not at like someone that's on the same socioeconomic status as you, not at gay people or trans people or immigrants or black people or whoever. Like get angry at the people who are in power who are fucking grifting you.
Yeah.
So I think, again, that might sound a little off or harsh or negative, but I really do think that people need to start getting a little angry.
I agree. I think there are. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's that there are people who keep it from mattering, and those people have a lot of power and influence.
So all in all, out of 10 fave stars, what do you guys give this Twitter Spaces? I give it. I would say like it was entertaining and also incredibly dispiriting. So I will give it a 5 out of 10.
I think it will be remembered in the way that like the Howard Dean scream is remembered. I think it will be like a people will remember where they were when they listened to nothing for 25 minutes. Like they will remember that the wealthiest man in the world owns the shittiest website ever made and couldn't get it to work.
It's also the best social media platform.
Yes.
Hands down. I'll give it a 10. I thought it was excellent for all the wrong
10 out of 10.
10
out of 10.
For them,
No notes.
all the right reasons for us. But I thought keep it up. Like, keep going.